Good morning. It is the next day. Recap. So I'm building a computer desk slash workbench. Surface has been prepped and stained. I left to cure overnight. Now what I'm going to be doing is finishing the top with the sealant, and what I'm going to be using is a oil-based polyurethane. This is the clear satin. Yep, let's get to work. So before you start, clean the surface, prep, make sure everything is ready for basically the most important part, which is sealing. If you use a brush, make sure it's rated. I guess I'm motivating others to do the same because our neighbors all of a sudden decide to start doing the renovation stuff too. Anyways, so make sure you use a brush that is rated for this type of material, and make sure you blow out or comb out or brush out the extra bristles that might be still there. Alright, make sure you stir well, stir easy, and I'll be back. Okay, so it's been 4 hours. First coat of polyurethane has gone down and cured enough for a second coat. So polyurethane, oil-based polyurethane has varnish in it, so you don't have to sand. When you apply the second coat, the top layer is gonna melt the bottom layer, and that's where it's gonna attach itself. So with like water-based polyurethane, because it doesn't have like that kind of a solvent in it, you have to sand for the surface to be rough for media for the second layer or the next layer to adhere to. But with that being said, I'm just going to be applying, and then we'll be back in another 4 hours for the final coat, and then depending on how it looks from the second, maybe I won't do a third because it's on the bottom side, because I'm running out of time and daylight, and I haven't even started on the top yet, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, bye. Okay, so update. It's been a week since I started this project for my desk slash future workbench. Now, because I don't have a shop, everything is stored outside, it has created a problem. Unfortunately, the edges here, there are 3 cracks. One of them is pretty bad. So I knew I should have, or I knew to seal the edge after I cut it, but I forgot. So now I have to pay for it. Let me kind of bring it in. So this is just the bottom side, and this crack here is pretty significant. So it goes all the way to here where it's delaminating. This crack is pretty deep. There's one like right here, and there's one like down here. And unfortunately, these two are not visible on the bottom side. This is the bottom side, but when you flip it over, you can see it. So I think I should be able to stabilize those two with some wood filler and maybe some either glue or just use wood filler, and hope it gets better. But this I think can get worse because it's right on the seam. The other two are like in the wood itself, so it's just more stabilized. You know, the stress is gone, but this stress is like along the seam, so I think it's possible this can go deeper. So there's a few ways to do this, but most likely what I'm going to do, instead of using like an epoxy or something, because it's pretty visible on the other side, I'm gonna try to close this as much as I can. I'm thinking of putting a pocket screw here and maybe on the edge, one here and one here, and try to get everything as tight and snug as possible, and then use the wood filler on the top. And I'm hoping, I'm hoping the staining and the finish will cover it up, but I don't know, we'll see. Luckily, this, when we flip it over, this is going to be on the right side, which for me is going to be up against the wall and not, you know, very visible. But yeah, that's things I gotta deal with. When I made this laminated 2x4 workbench top, I applied wood glue to the edges after I cut it, so like there's zero checking and splitting or cracking. But fuck, I forgot. Anyways, that's what I deal with. I'll probably save you guys the boring stuff. I'm trying to make my videos shorter, but basically what's going to happen today is I'm going to try to close this up with some pocket holes, and then fill the holes or plug the holes with 3/8 inch dowel, cut flush or sand flush, or trim off and then sand, and then I'm just gonna leave it. It's gonna be underneath the leg, so the workbench legs that I have, you'll see later, but it goes all the way down the length of the table, so it'll cover it. The side, I'm not too worried about it because I'll end up filling that, staining it and stuff when I flip the table over and do the top. So I'm gonna sand, probably paste wax, fix the crack, and get the legs on. And then from there I'll be able to flip the table over and start working on the top. But that's where I'm at. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, so update. This is the bottom side. This was sanded to 400 grit, wiped off with a rag with some solvent, and then paste wax on top of that. Like I was saying earlier, there's a crack here, so on this side I used a pocket hole to squeeze it together, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the top. I'm going to have a plug there, but whatever, I'd rather have a plug than a crack. Anyways, so I'm mounting the legs now. So tools needed. All you really need is a drill. You can do this with your hand and just a screwdriver if you want, or if you don't have a drill. But what I'm going to be doing is center punching with an awl, pilot hole using a 1/8, and a 5/16 drill to install a threaded insert. For those that don't know, a threaded insert is an insert that's conical with threads for a bolt to be able to be installed. So you have wood screws that go into wood, like this countertop is, and there's other like Spax, company SPAX. They make really good screws, but at times I want to be able to either remove or adjust, and I don't want to keep screwing and unscrewing into wood directly. So by using this, this will get installed directly into the wood and be permanent in there, because I'm going to be using CA glue with activator. CA glue is cyroacrylate glue, which is basically super glue, but that's pretty good stuff, 2P-10. Anyways, so this, so when a hole's drilled, this will get inserted and glued in place and be permanent. And then if I ever need to move the legs or remove it or do whatever I want to do, this can be removed, and it'll be it'll be flush surface. So I can remove the legs, do whatever I need to do, or adjust the legs over if I want to, depending on the type of workbench I'm putting underneath or the tool cabinet. So that's what I'm going to do. So this is the process that I'm going to show you. So I've already measured and make sure everything's perfectly centered, and I've marked where I want to install. So these legs, they're a company called Bench Depot. You can use whatever legs you want, but this is for like a workbench. I'm using it on my desk because eventually it's going to become a workbench. And for what it is, it's the most affordable, sturdy, and a good combination for this type of countertop, I think. Anyways, it's just what I'm doing. The other part of the legs are over there. I probably won't bore you with screwing everything in. So anyways, so I've already marked the table. So I'm finding my mark, using it all. This is Husky's line all. I like it because it's got the old school style plastic handle. The awl is pretty good, and I'm using a Vaughan 8-ounce ball peen hammer. Ball peen is here, and a regular hammer there. But for what I need, this is the perfect size. Anyways, so now that everything is center tapped, each of my screws has a depth gauge. The depth gauge is matched so it doesn't go deeper than it needs to, and so it doesn't go through the wood. If you have like a little bit of tear out, like I'm not too worried about it. I just tuck it into the hole, and then when the insert gets screwed in, it'll just kind of fold itself in and hold its place. If that makes sense. So what I'll be doing is pre-installing this onto here. I'm going to squeeze glue into the hole. I'm going to spray the activator onto the insert, and then I'm going to install it here. Alright, so GoPro's not the greatest at close-up shots, but I'm going to try to see if I can show you what I'm doing. Maybe this angle. So I'm going to squeeze some out and just let it run down. Squeeze some out, let it run down. And slowly, I always try to do it a little bit deeper than the wood. Anyways, that's pretty much it. So again, spraying the activator on the threads since the glue is already in there. And those will stay there permanently. I'm not too worried about how it doesn't look very pretty, because you got to remember, this is going to cover everything up. Anyways, that's it. I'm gonna do it for the rest of it, and I'll be back. Okay, so washer and bolts are installed. Rechecking, make sure everything's even on both sides. From there, torch down. Double check, make sure everything's good. And do the rest. That is like fucking sturdy. Love it. Alright, cool. So there's like this off or side wing thing that comes down, or actually this is going to be the back, so it's going to be coming down this way. I'll install that and then I'll install the middle, but it won't be dead center. I know some of y'all symmetry people like me, it might bother them because it's not centered, but there's a purpose for what I'm doing. I don't have like a 9-foot section of table to where I can put everything centered and then put like a 46-inch tool cabinet underneath like perfectly, but I can fit one, and then on the other side it's probably going to be like, you know, like this, so I'll have like a smaller or thinner tool cabinet for other miscellaneous things, but which is fine. It'll work out better because the side that has more room, that's where, you know, we'll be sitting on the computer or whatever we need to do, so we'll have more leg room, and then we'll go from there. All right, we'll be back. Okay, so leg installation's done. That was a lot of work because each leg has 8, and then each support side has 2. The one in the middle has 4. So 24, 8, 32, 34 plus these guys and the little feet. Anyways, so legs on. This, so I spaced it out the way I had it in my head. This is 47 inches. So when I get a 46-inch tool cabinet, I'll have like half an inch of space in between. And from here to here is 37 inches. So I'll be able to get a 36-inch tool cabinet with half inch on each side to fit perfectly here. So, time to flip. The girlfriend is going to come out and help me flip this. And I don't think she wants to be on camera. So, let's do it before and after. All right, so next day, kind of have a late start. I was at my mom's installing blinds and fixing her fence. A lot of work. Anyways, so now the next process is going to be pre-sanding and then routing the edges, and then I'm going to apply a pore filler, let that dry, sand again, and then I'll start staining. And there's my daughter. Hi. Alright, mommy and daughter is about to head out so I can get some work done. Come here. Come here. Oh. Audrey, you want to say hi? Say hi. Say hi. Say, what is that? It's a camera. It's a GoPro. Yeah. Hello. Say 안녕하세요. Say 안녕하세요. Audrey, say 안녕하세요. Okay, say bye-bye. Okay, so this is where I used a pocket hole to close up the crack. You can't even see it anymore. Anyways, so I used a pocket hole on both sides, top and bottom. I somehow end up hitting the bottom side pocket hole by like 2 fucking millimeters. So I had to drill another hole and I plugged it with a dowel. Don't buy Craig pre-made dowels, they're garbage. It's best to get 3/8 inch dowels from big box, lumberyard, online, whatever, and then from there it's best to plug it and use a Japanese pull stall. This one, I think it was like 20 bucks, and then just flush, cut flush, and then sand. And then I filled the remaining void or whatever with wood filler. Now on the sander, I'll have to readjust these legs. The sander, obviously if you have like a sanding block like this, it's still able to do the work. There's other styles as well. This kind of like a foam, it gives a little bit, it's pretty comfortable, has little finger toils. So this is the one I like. Anyways, for a random orbit sander, there's a lot of different ones out there. This is just the one I chose to get, which is the Bosch. I think for the money, I think it's like 60 bucks. For the money, it's pretty freaking good. If you want, you can buy like a separate pad for that gives you some give, but make sure you mark the edge with like a Sharpie, what I did. So when you're sanding, if this doesn't move, that means your pressure's too high. So for example, you see how it's moving? If I stop it, that means it's not doing its job and just vibrating in place. So you want to be able to have this constantly move, because you have different area of the sander that's going to be making contact with the surface that you're sanding. So by doing that, you're ensuring you're minimizing or eliminating the swirls or inconsistencies on the surface. Anyways, so now that that's done, sanding. Okay, update. So I rounded all the edges using a router, and then I sanded to 220. So normally from here I would be spraying water to raise the grain, like I was explaining in the last video. But with this table, I'm going to be doing something I've never done before, which is grain filling. So normally you have wood filler. Grain filling is to get rid of some of the pores that's deeper. For this larger table, it'll be a lot more visible. And there's a little bit of dents here and there. I think there's like 4 total. I tried putting water with some heat and it didn't bring it out as much as I want to. So the wood filler I use is Timbermate. So this is the walnut color. It's the darkest one besides black. I wanted to get black, but shipping would have taken longer than me trying to work this weekend. So I went with this, which is the darkest color, which should be fine. And then from there, I basically pulled the goop out and mixed it 50-50 with water to dilute it. So the consistency that I'm trying to go for from whatever you're stirring with is 3 seconds of stream before it starts to drip. So what I mean by that is 1, 2, 3, and then it starts to drip, right? It's about where I want it to be. And it looks like chocolate milk. I'd show you, but I don't want to be like one of those YouTubers that fail by showing something that's tipping it over. Anyways, so what I'm going to be doing is pouring it directly on using a spreader. For certain areas that have a bubble, I'm going to be using this little bit stiffer of a spreader to make sure I get into all the grain. And then I don't know how I'm going to apply it to the sides. I might just apply it by hand. Again, I don't know, I've never done this before. Daniel, I wanted to do this with your table, but because I haven't done it before, I don't want to mess it up. So I'd rather try it on mine first. Anyways, so that's it. Okay, damn, that shit's messy. Got it all over me, but it's fine. It's water-based, washes out easily. Now I just let it dry, like it is here, and I sand it off. I'm going to be going around full strength and plugging some of these cracks and some of the bigger divots. Yep, and then I'll show you before and after sanding. Okay, so this is going to be the last video of this series. This is just a review of what all was done that took fucking forever. As you know, I'm outside, so a lot of my scheduling is dependent on the weather. Trying to spray, finish outdoors in wind of any kind is not good. Dust, bugs, whatever else that can land on the table, it's difficult. Anyways, so throughout the weeks as I can, coating and sanding, coating, cleaning up, setting back up, tearing down. It's just a lot of work for a larger project like this outside. Anyways, so I'm done. We're about to move it inside. I just want to give you a quick look before we do of like with the better lighting. Also, I'm kind of testing out my mic. Anyways, so how should I do this? See if I can use. Let me set this up. I'll be back. Okay, so I don't have like a fancy gimbal for my GoPro or a DSLR, but I'm going to do my best to try to give you a good shot of what this looks like. So here's the bottom. These are the legs. Okay, so what did you not see? Basically, the only thing left was 7 layers of oil-based polyurethane sprayed using a HVLP spray gun. After that, I let it cure for about a week, and then the final finishing step was to wet sand using a DA sander. I had to take a few breaks in between because my compressor is not that big, and sanders like that, air sanders, suck up a lot of air. Anyways, wet sanding. After wiping the surface down, because of little dust nibs, dirt, a couple bugs, little gnats or whatever landed on the surface, I started with 400 grit. I did 2 passes, and then 600 grit wet sanding. The rest of everything's wet sand. 600 grit, I did 4 passes at half the speed. And lastly, I did 1,000 grit with 8 passes, and even slower. So normally, whether you're sanding a surface or sharpening a knife or anything that you use progressive grit, whenever you step up, you want to increase the grit. So normally you would increase the grit. When I say grit, that's the roughness of whatever you're using, whether it's sandpaper or whatever. So I went from 400 to 600 to 1,000. So from 400 to 600, I doubled the time, and then from 6 to 1,000, I doubled the time again of how many times I went over. When you're using a knife sharpener, you do the same thing. However many strokes you do on one side with a lower grit, the more you go up, the number of times you do it should even out, so the surface gets smooth. So I don't know if the GoPro would kind of pick it up. So it's not glossy, but it's like glass surface smoothness wise. So there's a slight reflection, that's just because the surface is so smooth. When you're looking at the table directly though, because this is a matte finish, it's just a satin matte. You can see the wood grain. It's perfect. I'm happy with it. Anyways, so am I centered? Yeah. So I'm done. This is gonna be the end of the series. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. Again, this is not something I normally do. I'm just starting to record all the little projects and things that I do. And yeah, I guess we'll see where this goes, but I'm not taking it too seriously. What's next? After this is done, my next project would be finishing up the vise, mounting it. I needed this full table surface without the vise mounted for this butcher block top. But yeah, so the vise will be mounted, finished up. And then from there, I think I might do a little bit more organization stuff, possibly upgrade my tent. But we'll see. We'll see. I've been spending a lot more time with my daughter, family, and work's pretty crazy, so this is a pretty big project. I think I'm just going to handle and tackle smaller ones for now, just to get them off my to-do list, and we'll go from there. Okay, thanks for watching.